It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with experienced branch staff at over 250 locations so you get the product you're looking for. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You coming to bed, hon?
Yep, honey, I'll be right there. Just gotta turn out the light. Ow! 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 Ah! Ah!
Some things never change. Like your kids always leaving tiny toys on the floor for you to step on. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Sweetie, I think I left the downstairs light on.
Please don't make me go.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to Two Chunks and a Hunk. Movie musings for mostly everybody.
Hello, and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk. I'm Batman. Where's the podcast?
Just kidding, it's me, Jordan. I'm a chunk. I'm a chunk, sorry.
Cool. I'm Doge, and...
You want to hunk nuts? Come on, let's hunk nuts.
I don't want to hunk nuts, just by the way.
Oh, I'm
If there's an opt-out option...
Click the checkbox. Do you accept...
I don't know if it gets any better.
Do you accept hunking nuts? Accept to browse our website.
I'm Carter, and Batman. Can somebody tell me what kind of a world we live in where a man dressed up as a chunk gets all my press? This town needs an enema.
Gosh
Yeah.
dang it, dude.
Very disappointed in that.
You're disappointed.
Very
Jess
disappointed in...
just texted me and said, Bear was sound asleep and you woke him up by yelling something about nuts. Not the first time I've got that message, you know what I mean?
Whoa, what? You joker?
I know, I'm silly. Silly joker. What a silly joker I am.
You're silly. Why are you the hunk, though?
Thanks. I was getting worried you weren't going to ask me that, and it was just going to be.
I thought you and
just
Carter
a
were doing a
joker.
back and forth thing. I was going to let him say it, but then he just sort of let it go.
No, I'm just still
No.
brooding in how awful my random jack attempt was. So I've
had way worse jacks that have been recorded on this podcast. I'm the hunk because for Christmas, Jess got me like a sous vide. We know about sous vides, right?
Oh yeah.
You seal the meat in a vacuum bag and you essentially cook it in a hot water bath until the inside of the meat's the exact temperature that you want it to be, and you can take it out, finish it, sear it on the grill. But the good thing about it is, like, when you seal the meat, if you vacuum seal it, it opens the muscle fibers to where you can get a really deep, really thorough marinade in like about 30, 40 minutes.
Honk shoe. That's how cartoon characters snore. Get to the point.
So I'm getting there. So I've been doing a lot of sous vide cooking, and it's really great. And Jess got me a vacuum sealer to go with it. And my vacuum sealer really sucks. Because it's a vacuum.
That was good.
Was it? Are you going to say good, really? Here's what I've noticed, and I know we've got a Batman series to begin, so...
No, I wanted to kick us off with a classic joke.
Here's the thing. I've noticed we have trends in our hunkdom. Carter's is typically that he is going to Disney World.
Yeah, Carter's the hunk for going to Disney World.
Or something of that level. So like Carter's hunkdom is typically like grand thing that happened.
Yeah.
I feel like my hunkdom typically shakes out a little something like this. It's usually like, who's going to be the hunk? Nobody says anything, and I'm like, I could scrounge something.
I mean, I made a weird mattress.
I made a weird sandwich.
Right? Yeah. I can scrounge something. I can figure it out. And Doja's goes like, allow me to set the stage for 11 to 14 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'll wrap up with sort of a vague reason that I'm a hunk.
Yeah,
but then this time the bait and switch was bad.
It's supposed to be though, isn't it? That's a pun.
No, yeah, sure.
I appreciated it.
I didn't. So
now,
what do we do now? What do we do
for
now?
this episode?
I wanted to kind of deflate your excitement. Like maybe it was a balloon filled with poison gas.
I'm
You guys
back
don't even
in,
know that
baby.
you don't even know that I'm so on theme.
He's so on theme. I said that already. I knew that. I thought it was brilliant.
We're in the Batman series.
We're here.
Yeah.
Finally. You know,
Finally.
Catwoman was kind of part of it, and that was just a real gem, but that was more of an accident than anything else. The Batman series.
The movie or the fact that we talked about it?
Yes. And we are going to begin the Batman series with a movie from 1989 starring Michael Keaton.
Yes, sir.
Starring Jack Nicholson.
Do you think it was tough for him to remember his character's name?
He's also Jack in The Shining.
Yeah.
Something that I've noticed about Jack Nicholson is that I always almost say Jack Nicklaus, who is a famous golfer.
Everyone
The Golden Bear.
And so...
Because also in golf, there's a Phil Mickelson.
I
What are you supposed to do?
dude,
Crazy.
like, what do you even... But the name of this movie, to begin our Batman series, it's pretty simple. Batman!
We got it.
Tosh, will you synopsify us, please?
This week's IMDb synopsis is written by Blazer346.
Incredible. Good start.
No, that was a gun. That's a laser.
I think it was Blazer.
Blazer.
Oh.
So like
So
a,
what sound
a
does-
smart jacket.
What sound
like
does a
smart
really
tweed
smart jacket make?
Ooh.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, there we go.
Cha-ching, I think is what it makes.
That's probably.
After witnessing the death of his beloved parents in front of his face, billionaire Bruce Wayne vows himself to protecting the good people of Gotham City against evil forces that threaten the city. But his vow is put to the test when he starts to wage his crime-fighting crusade against the maniacal clown Prince of Crime, also known as the Joker.
Dang. When was the first and last time you watched this movie prior to for this podcast?
I mean, I
Last
had
time?
to be like 10 maybe
I
or
was
younger.
I was a little guy.
Yeah, the last time I watched this, it's been
Probably-
a minute and a half.
It has been
Probably 2 or
at
3 years
least
ago.
over a decade since I watched this movie last.
Did you say 2 or 3 years ago, Carter?
For your first time.
Oh, the first time?
I said when
No,
was
I
the
was
first
young.
and last
I thought-
time?
Oh. The last time I watched it was 2 or 3 years ago. The first
Gotcha.
time I watched it, I was a kiddo.
Yes.
So after this movie released, there was a fair amount of Batman mania.
I
Like
mean,
merchandising to like
Yes.
everything was Batman. Carter, you were alive and Jordan and I were not. Were you swept up in the Bat-mania?
I was 1 year old, but the
So you saw it in
Bat-mania-
theaters probably, right?
No. The Bat-mania, though, even when I can start having memories about toys and things, which was
Yeah.
probably like 5, 6, was lasting a long time because, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll talk about Batman Returns happens a couple years after this. But this was like, I forget how Batman in 1989, because I think we had some Superman movies that came before this, right?
Sure, Superman
in-
76 was
I
about 10
think-
years before.
when Batman came out,
Roughly 13, I think.
At least American culture started to lean more this guy being more popular than Superman.
Yeah.
I think. And it shows that influence of cinema and seeing these people in movies that at least carry some weight. But Batman and this random second big movie or first big movie attempt of this director, Tim Burton, out of nowhere, I'm forgetting how much this probably influences not only the seriousness of like current Batmans, but
Yeah.
also maybe superhero movies.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is pivotal. This is a kind of
Absolutely.
pillar of superhero movies.
So I this movie will always hold a special place in my heart because growing up, my family as a whole was not into nerd stuff when I was super young. I was. And so like I didn't watch superhero movies with my dad until Marvel started getting cool and like the Dark Knight trilogy came out and it became a little more mainstream.
Yeah.
I only got into Star Wars as a kid because my aunts gave me a box set of VHSs of the original trilogy. Like,
Cool.
I only got into Lord of the Rings because we had very, very close friends whose family was obsessed, and I would watch it with them. You know what I mean? So I never saw this movie. This movie I was exposed to after Batman the Animated Series, which was my first exposure to the character of Batman ever. And I absorbed Batman the Animated Series with Kevin Conroy voicing Batman and Mark Hamill voicing the Joker. I absorbed that almost constantly for like the formative years of my life. One of my earliest memories is in the living room of the house I was born into. We had a rug in the living room, and I had bunched it up, made a tunnel, crawled inside, called it my bat cave, got a bowl of goldfish and a Batman action figure, and I had a Batwing, like the Batjet toy thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was laid down on my stomach just watching animated series episode after episode after episode.
It's phenomenal.
Then years later, in elementary school, when I finally saw this movie, I was like, oh, it's like the cartoon. And so what I mean is this movie gave me one of my favorite memories of a child, which was Tim Burton's world and the musical stylings of Danny Elfman influenced my brain's Batman more than I even understood at the time.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, like in 1992 to 1995 is Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is also a pivotal time in my life as a kiddo. And exact same feel, Jordan. Especially when you hear Batman's tune, right? When we first see him, it's all over the animated series, and you forget kind of what came first, which is funny. But on IMDb, it ranks the top 250 TV shows of all time. Batman the Animated Series is number 26.
Yeah.
On
Doesn't
that
shock
list.
me.
Because
very
it's
good.
really good.
It's
and
so
it still
good.
holds up.
Yeah.
But we won't get to my super pump just yet.
Yeah.
But Tim Burton's influence on who Batman is massive. Tim Burton's influence on Gotham City.
That's the big one, right?
That's the one.
Like a city at a time.
If I could put the feelings of just traveling Gotham in 1989 and then in 1991 and 92 into a bottle and just carry it with me, that the nostalgia is dense.
Yeah.
I love
It's like waiting in line
way
for the
it lives.
Batman ride at Six Flags.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just do it now. So my super pump, amidst all of these wonderful things, amidst Jack, all that stuff, is the set. My super pump for this movie ultimately is the set, because that's where most of my feels came from. These nostalgic things that I go back to, and I'm back again with all of my stuffed animals around me with a blanket fort watching these Tim Burton Batman movies. Like, it is amazing. It won an Oscar, set and art direction won an Oscar. Because, I mean, it's just kind of coming out of nowhere. And they did it on a budget.
Yeah.
Like on a small, like
For
this
real.
movie made more than 100 times
Wow.
what it cost. It was $35 million. It made over $400 million. Batman in 1989 was more successful domestically in the US of A than Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, Last Crusade got more worldwide, but I mean, we were enamored. America was like, oh my God.
Bad guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Love him.
It was great.
Love
Because
him.
it made it, he wasn't like a joke anymore. Is that, do you think that's like
totally.
one of the main things? Anyways.
I think in popular culture, he wasn't a joke anymore. Comics had been trending that direction for a while. This was a year after The Killing Joke was released, which
Dark
is
Knight Returns was already out at this point too.
Exactly. So Batman was already serious and broody in the comics, but like
Talk
this,
about an amazing 24 months for
for
Batman.
real.
Yeah.
This is like the kind of worldwide first exposure to a non-Adam West goofy, chummy Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's like a movie based around largely non-bankable talent at the time. It's easy to forget that Michael Keaton at the time was a bit like Bruce Willis going into Die Hard, where it was like,
started in
why
comedy too.
would you cast Mr. Mom as Batman?
Right.
Kidding me? That's stupid. There's no way
And
he would do a good job.
He'd
at that.
done Beetlejuice the year before, right? So
Yeah.
even then, but that wasn't like Tim Burton tends to have a cult following. And so Beetlejuice is far more like cultish of a following than Batman.
Oh,
which is just
sure.
Popular opinion, right? But
So here's the thing about, and I'm sure we'll have more of these discussions as time goes on in this series. I think we have to. But just base stats, obviously I'm not going to count our Pat because his movie's not out and we haven't seen it. But I mean, Michael Keaton is my second favorite Batman.
Cool. Who's number one?
I mean, it has to be Christian Bale for me personally.
Okay. So we're talking live action, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Okay.
If we're talking animated, it's Kevin Conroy. It's not even close.
Say I won't stand for that Kevin disrespect on my podcast.
If animated counts, Kevin Conroy is Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just as far as live action, man, Michael Keaton is other than his perm,
Which it's 89.
which is
That's a choice.
I'll give him a free
choice.
pass there. But he's a great Bruce.
Yeah.
He's a great Batman.
Yeah.
His pursed lips crack me up every time.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Batman's just gonna kiss somebody.
Yeah, it looks
every
like Batman's
time.
coming in for the smooch.
Coming in for that smooch.
Man, I don't know. I really, I expected to enjoy this more in a Catwoman way.
Yeah.
And I rewatching after probably more than a decade, I enjoyed this in a very real Batman-y way.
Yeah.
Because I think the camp that we get, at least from this Tim Burton movie,
Earned.
is both an homage to old Batman. These were still some of the pieces that we had to bring from the structure ahead of time and be like, this
Hundo.
kind of worked. We have to bring it in here. And also the Joker. I mean, it's going to be,
Oh yeah,
anything around him. There's parts of that, but yeah, it's good. And Keaton had a pretty massive influence on how Batman would be portrayed from there on,
for sure.
or at least
Yeah.
portrayed well.
His inability to turn his head kills me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty rough.
Yeah. But like Bale picking up on changing his voice, like that was a Keaton thing. Keaton said, I think he should sound a
Yeah.
lot different in the mask.
Otherwise,
And
people's
that's-
going to know it's exactly him, right?
Yeah. And people
Yeah.
forgot about that when Batman Begins came out, right? They were like, that's dumb. I like the movie, but except for like, I don't know why he's got to be like, it's like, well, that's okay. Whatever, guys. Give him
We'll get there. Give it about a month. We'll get there.
Yeah. There's so many Batman movies. There's
Quite a lot of Batmans.
every time I think about it, my brain keeps going like, and next is Clooney, and it's like, nope, another Keaton, then
Another
Kilmer,
Keaton,
then
a Kilmer,
Clooney,
then a Clooney, then a Christian,
then a Christian, then a
then a
Crobert, a Crobert.
then a Cattinson.
We're not going to do the Catholics though. We already
No,
did
we're not
those.
going to do
We
the
already did
Catholics.
those.
We already did the Catholics.
No, okay. There is so much to love here. Gotham City is this city out of time with this like retro and futuristic technology all over the place.
It's definitely the 80s based on technology, but also the style
It's also the
is
50s.
The 50s, and the mobsters are from the 20s.
Right.
And the city's this weird, like steampunk, almost H.R. Geiger
Yeah, totally.
tangle of tubes.
Totally.
It's just so cool.
And Batman or Gotham is still portrayed like that in a lot of Batman pop culture, specifically like the Arkham games and
Yeah.
a lot of the comics. The Batcave still looks like this in a lot of Batman literature. Still has the sort of like piecemealed monitors in a cave with waterfalls just on a random pillar. And
Yeah.
I forgot how late it happens in the movie. But if we're talking about set pieces, the Batmobile, that is one of the most iconic Batmobile.
I have seen
it's got to be top
that
two.
Batmobile
That
with
and
my
Adam
own
West's-
eyes.
Yeah. Oh, you have?
Where?
Truett Cathy had it at the Chick-fil-A headquarters in Atlanta back in like 2006.
Why does he have a Batmobile?
Dude, you can Google it. It's there with the suit. I don't know if
Why
it's
does
the
Truett
I don't know if it
Cathy
is
own that
the
stuff?
one used on set, but it is like a scale replica at least, maybe the one.
That's the one that's in the animated series, right?
Yes.
Very similar. Yeah.
Very similar.
It's a little
Okay.
more Cadillac-y in the animated series, but it's very, very similar. It's the one I had a toy of. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I had the Hot Wheels of it.
It's just Gotham is just kind of sexy, dude.
Dude,
It's
it
just
is a little
Yeah.
sexy, isn't it?
everything about it, even though
It's like
a little
Gotham
bit
is
grunge.
wearing low-rise, ripped-up leather bell-bottoms and high-heeled sandals.
And has a Kate Gosselin haircut. And just whipped me with a keg hose.
Did anybody notice in terms of, and I don't want to get too jumping all over the place, but
Sure.
like in terms of plot points, the similarities of what Catwoman was trying to do with beauty products?
Big time.
Dude, I had forgotten that as a through line.
Catwoman
narratively.
is just a half-hearted remix of a million other superhero movies.
Yeah.
So that's
Isn't
not.
it?
We're gonna see more of those, I'm sure.
Does Kim Basinger ever come back? Does Vicky ever come back? I don't think she does.
I don't remember.
I don't remember if she's in the next one.
I mean, I know we're going to find out soon.
Yeah, sure. I'm saying I think she does. I think she's really great in this.
Yeah, she does okay.
I do too.
Like I think that her sort of figuring out everything about Bruce and just sort of trying to pin his personality. I'll say this. Alfred's portrayal is fantastic, but Alfred would never out that Bruce was lying about being out of town like that. When he was like, we're not going anywhere on the stairs, I was like, Alfred, what are you doing, man?
It's tricky because like in pop culture, because we've been writing Batman stories since like what, 40 something? Like we've been writing Batman stories for a long time. The character's going to keep evolving. And so as somebody who has read a lot of modern Batman, particularly Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run from 2011 to 2015, I think is the best modern Batman. There are things like when Batman like is barely able to fight this random guy without like just barely squeaks out a win against a couple of random thugs. It's like, that's not very Batman.
Right.
Or like when he's not necessarily the world's greatest detective and doesn't really figure out a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, that's not very Batman. Or like when Alfred outs him, it's like, that's not very Alfred.
It seems like this is very accidentally year one, though.
It sort of is year one-ish. I think that the Batman's going to be more blatantly year one. And Batman
I think it's supposed to be more year two, isn't it?
Well, sure. But I mean, pulling from year one, the graphic novel. But yeah, it's interesting because there are little things that it's like, that's not who the character is now, but I can see that then that probably tracks a little bit better.
Yeah.
I had several asides on this podcast, over a dozen, to where I get to say like, man, I'm learning so much. But for some reason today, and I'll have to check my own emotional health, I'm like, do I belong here? Do I belong on this podcast? They're talking about so much stuff that I'm like, are they kind of pulling me along?
No, Carter, you are representing
we have an obligation to
most listeners, I think, and they're listening to us and they're going, Snyder, Capullo, who are these people? I don't know.
I don't care about this.
What is this?
I don't care about this. I don't care about this.
No,
Talk about the movie.
care about it. I do care about it. I think that's amazing.
I'm going to co-sign that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run of Batman in the New 52 was probably my favorite Batman content other than the Arkham series of the 2010s,
yeah.
I think that we're going to see their influence for a long, long time.
I mean, there's Court of Owls rumors for the Pattinson in Batman.
Oh, which would, by the way,
be great, right?
Amp me up beyond.
I mean, Matt Reeves,
anything.
Is he confirmed for a trilogy? He's hoping to have more than the one, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he's confirmed.
It's just kind of a question mark in the times of the
I think
COVID.
Warner Brothers, if a Batman solo project can perform well,
can count on them to.
I think they're going to come in
it.
and say, as many as you want, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But we also get to make the decisions. How about you make Electro purple?
Right, yeah. I'm a little concerned. Yeah. I'm a little concerned that it'll do well under Matt Reeves' guidance. Yeah. And then Warner Brothers is going to be like, tight. That was honestly sick. Okay, we're going to bring Halle Berry back through a time warp portal.
Exactly.
Please don't.
What if we brought every Batman back together and we did a movie called Batman No Way Home?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that.
I know. I'm worried that they're going to learn the wrong
It's funny how possible that is.
Anyway, I was talking about characters being pretty different from their most current incarnation. Yeah. And I think that's going to lead me to my super dump. Are we ready for it? Yeah. I know we've kind of been just dilly-dallying around.
No, I love it.
The breeze.
Not dilly-dally.
I do not prefer a Joker with an origin story in which he has knowable motives and intentions.
Sure.
Things like
takes away the chaos, doesn't it?
Right. Things like The Killing Joke do a great job. They give us this backstory of him being a failed comedian who has one really horrible day, and the whole thing is a commentary on him and Batman both. You're one bad day away from totally abandoning the framework of a normal life and doing something mad. And then Joker in the end undercuts all that by saying, if I'm going to have a past, I'd prefer it to be multiple choice. This is one possible way that I'm here, but ultimately, Batman, it doesn't matter because you're trying to bring order to chaos, and I am the chaos that you're trying to subdue, and you can't win.
Yeah, that is Joker at his best. I agree.
And so Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, in their New 52 run, over about, I guess, 10 years ago now, they were writing it.
Good grief.
I know. They came under like a pretty common criticism of them is that they present the Joker as though he's this like totemic elemental force of chaos rather than a goofy clown who zaps people with buzzers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think those are incompatible.
Right.
And I do prefer a Joker that arises out of the ether as though sort of cosmically balancing the order that Batman's trying to bring.
Well, we do kind of get a live action Joker later that is kind of that.
Exactly. That's
no
a huge
real
inspiration.
motivation. No real, like, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Jared Leto crushes it. He's so good.
He does. He does. It's because of all the dead mice he mailed his co-stars. It's hilarious. No, but I think so. Once Jack is the Joker, I think he's a great Joker.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do not want to see him
As a gangster.
before that. I mean, it's like in that New 52 run that we keep talking about, and I'm sure we're going to keep talking about over the next
we definitely
month and a half. There's a moment where Joker himself gets into the Batcave. He like swims into it and refuses to look at who Batman might be because he's like, that doesn't matter to me. I don't care if he's Bruce Wayne. I don't care if he's not Bruce Wayne.
I think you are thinking of when Bruce shows up at his jail cell.
There's two moments.
Does it happen both times?
It happens twice.
He basically tells him turn around, and Joker says no.
Yeah, Bruce.
He doesn't want to know who Batman is.
Because it doesn't matter. Yeah, and so like,
Carter, you should honestly read the New 52 run of Batman. I might reread it. I'm going to reread it during this time.
I think so. We talked about that. We texted about it. I think it would be really fun for us as a group to read through like the 3 graphic novels that look to be huge inspirations for the Pattinson thing, which is it looks to be year
Long
one,
Long
Halloween, and then New 52, Volume 1, Court of Owls.
Yeah.
As a group, I think that would be a super fun group project.
That would
We
be
can text
really,
about that
really
later,
fun.
but that would be fun to read that as a group.
Well, I think it's good to say it on this podcast because I think that if you're listening and that sounds interesting to you, like if you've never jumped into comics, and look, I understand that Batman tends to, we have my brother-in-law refers to things as having the Batman effect where he says it's not actually cool. It's just been hyped up so much. I understand that Batman can be a total punchline sometimes.
Sure.
These storylines that we're talking about are actually very, very tight and really good writing and a lot of fun.
I'm down. I'm down. And I was down for your super dump too. And I almost co-sign, but my super dump is it was very, and what's tough is it almost feels unfair, but we are reviewing this in 2022.
Sure.
But it feels unfair, but it's like it was super heavy-handed to make sure that we knew. Like my super dump specifically was his reported skill set on his file when he was
that he's
in
good at
prison.
chemistry. Yeah.
He's an artist. He's good at chemistry. We got to make sure that they know why he can do everything that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Why he can do such good painting in the museum to that Prince
That's why
song.
I'm going to do some art now. I'm like, okay, well,
Yep.
there you go.
I agree.
We know why now.
I agree with both of your super dumps. Just want to say that. Even though they're not my super dumps, I agree with both of them.
Yeah.
I think we're all on the same page about this, for sure.
I think before we get into like shout announcements, going back to Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale, which is such a good.
Is it Basinger?
Yeah.
I said Basinger like an idiot.
No, I know I'm the
I'm gonna
last
go to
one to
jail.
trust on
I was about to say,
pronunciation.
I don't know.
It's Basinger.
Basinger.
But Kim, so she was 36 at the time. She's older than me when she made this movie. And like Chelsea and I have talked about
Dang,
like
that's old.
who are your most
Older than
here's what I'm
Carter?
saying. No.
Wow.
It's like a testament to her like timeless beauty. Chelsea and I talk
sure.
about like what are the most beautiful moments of people in the world. And for one of them, it was Kim Basinger in Batman. Another one's like Jude Law in The Holiday. It's like just
totally, yeah.
that I'm just like, oh my God.
I'm more on board with Jude Law in The Holiday
from
being
this world. But it was funny. We were joking. Like we would laugh every time they put glasses on Vicky Vale. And they're like, are you trying to hide? Are you trying to be like, well, she's not. She'll be prettier later.
She's not like
just gonna
that pretty.
Have we confirmed 100% that Kim Basinger is not Taylor Swift's mother?
Chelsea said the same thing. She was like, there's some similarities there.
There's, I would say, a lot of similarities.
Yeah, this is the only time that we see her in all of the Batmans. I looked ahead to.
Okay, I thought so. I thought she was out after this. It's so interesting. It's easy for me as a retired Batman fanatic who is opening up his heart to be hurt again. I put Batman down for about 5 years, didn't read anything, didn't play anything, didn't watch anything. And then I decided to pick up, and casually date Batman again. And I think it's easy for me
Reconnected.
with the history that I have with the character to look at him dating Vicky Vale and be like, I hate that. And to look at him dating Wonder Woman in the Ben Affleck thing and be like, I hate that. And I think I hate Batman with any romantic attachments almost at all. Yeah. But it does create a lot of fun when Bruce is trying to both romantically open up to somebody and also hide the fact that he dresses like a bat and punches people for a living.
Is that not, though? Like, are we not completely aping Superman and Lois here?
Sure.
I just think Superman and Lois is better than Batman and Vicky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I would say the same.
I would agree with that.
I would say the same.
Mostly because...
Did you think you were being controversial?
No.
Okay, the tone was like, and I'm ready to fight about it.
It's just because Vicky doesn't get to say a weird poem like Lois does in Superman. I really love the weird poem. I wish there'd been a weird poem.
Yeah.
I think every movie should just probably go ahead and have a weird poem.
Give me a weird poem in everything. When they're falling in love or out of love or staying in love.
Accidentally in love, perhaps.
Yeah. So she said, what's the problem, baby?
Accidentally in love.
What's the problem? I don't know. Well, maybe I'm in love.
Maybe I'm in love.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. It is time, though, for shout announcements, which I'm in love with.
Where's shout announcements?
It's a different Batman, but it shares the same energy.
Who are you? I'm Bonesaw.
I'm Batman, and I've got you for 3 minutes.
Batman is ready.
Well, when it comes to Spotify, there's two important things to do.
Tell them both.
I would say the first most important thing is to pay for Spotify Premium so that you don't get those ads that are 500 times the volume of the rest of the thing you're listening to.
Yes.
I would say part 1A of the most important thing is if you're an Apple Music person, why? Switch to Spotify. Like, just do it. But number 2, the most important thing you could do for us on Spotify is rate us. You're actually able to rate podcasts now directly in the Spotify app.
And review or
I don't believe that there are written reviews yet. I hope
say
that
how many
happens.
stars you love us.
Yeah,
like
just
a second. You probably do that in 1 second, eh?
yeah. It is right there. I mean, if you go two chunks in a hunk,
1 second, eh?
it says it's got profile picture, it's got 2 chunks in a hunk, and then it's got a star that you can click and rate. It'll take you about 1.5 seconds.
It's so easy.
And that's huge for us, honestly. Anytime a new platform or an existing platform has a newly introduced rating system, it is vitally important that we get some numbers up there. We actually already have more than I was expecting on Spotify. I wish I had that number pulled up. There's no way to know, though, unfortunately.
It's impossible.
I can't think of a way to do it. But please, if you don't mind, take a second and rate us on Spotify. That would be absolutely massive for us.
Something that is not absolutely massive, but is instead quite tiny and hand-sized is Legos.
Mm-hmm. I love those little block boys and gals.
I can't think of a good middle sentence, but the last sentence was going to be for this series on our Patreon feed. We're going to be watching Lego Batman.
I gotta have a first sentence, a middle sentence, and a last sentence when I talk, and the middle sentence is doo-doo.
Yeah, so for
Sandwich has a
Patreon,
huge
for Patreon for this series, we'll be watching Lego Batman.
Will and Annette, so excited.
If all this serious Batman stuff is a bit too dark and broody for you.
Well, wait 2 movies if it's all a little too serious for you.
Yeah. Lego Batman is a great time. If you haven't seen it, we would love you to watch it with us and listen to our Patreon bonus episode about that. You can get that bonus episode as well as what
Just a
feels
whole
like
bunch of others.
What feels like hundreds of others, but is really like a little less than 20 others for $2 a month. That's super duper cheap. That is not even a cup of coffee a month. For all you millennials. Forget about avocado toast.
Isn't it $3 a month?
It is $3 a month, isn't it? For $3 a month. Sorry, that's really expensive. I get it if you can't do 2 was better. If you can't do 3, I totally get it.
We have a very aptly named movie to be talking about tomorrow. Makes total sense.
Tomorrow.
Dude,
We're
next
all
week.
over the freaking map on this one.
Next week. We all have to pee so bad.
It's true. I really
It's
have
very
to pee
true.
very bad right
It's
now.
lots of coffee. It's a double-edged sword. It gives us the energy, and then it also makes it
You
hard to
just
talk
talk about how bad you have
sometimes.
to pee, and then you just sort of
You
kept
just go on
going.
forever
You
and
just
ever.
kept going.
Batman Returns
He does.
He does.
He does
next
return.
week in a movie that
Yes.
we'll be reviewing called Batman Returns.
He
Amazing.
does next week.
We still have Tim Burton, and it's a Tim Burton Batman.
Still Miguel Keaton.
Still,
But
Tim Burton's Canada's #1 supplier of coffee and donuts.
We keep Danny as well, right? We keep Danny Elfman for this next one.
oh yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, same crew.
I love it.
And so
that's
yeah,
great.
be back with us. We'll be donning our crudely fashioned leather suits that seem to fit our bodies, our silhouettes perfectly. We'll throw on some top hats and monocles, just like our good buddy Mr. Peanut. And we'll try.
My
we'll try
favorite
and kill
Batman
Batman.
villain, Mr. Peanut.
Also, Pee Wee Herman is his dad.
Yeah.
Is Penguin's dad in the next one. So.
Yeah, well, what people don't know is that Pee
ready
Wee
for that.
stands for Peanut Weena Herman.
Stands for Penguin Wingwin Herman.
Penguin Wingwin.
You coming to bed, hon?
Yep, honey, I'll be right there. Just gotta turn out the light. Ow! 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 Ah! Go!
Some things never change. Like your kids always leaving tiny toys on the floor for you to step on. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Sweetie, I think I left the downstairs light on.
Please don't make me go.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I think it's time for me to super pump
Please.
because it would be good to spend a little bit of time here. We talked about Joker's origin,
Yeah.
that we're not a huge fan,
Yeah.
that we don't really love our Joker being definable.
Yeah.
I would say that post-origin story, what we get is a pretty fantastic Joker.
Yeah, it's real fun. Real good.
Portrayed iconically by my super pump for 1989's Batman, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start by saying I don't like seeing the Joker as Jack
Napier.
Napier, the gangster. But I love a gangster-influenced Joker.
Have I got a Jared Leto for you?
Yeah, right. I more mean like
that.
Tommy Guns and Fedora gangster.
Yeah.
Man, he is unsettling to look at
Yeah.
when he has his people makeup on.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's no good. It's no good. Jack is chaotic in his energy. He is funny. Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight has transcended this movie. It's everywhere.
yeah.
Man, watching this as an adult, this is my first time as like what I would classify as an emotionally mature, sometimes adult, to watch this movie. Watching it, I understand the hesitancy of people to readily accept Heath
Yeah.
because it seems like
Totally.
such a different direction. And I actually think they're cut from the same cloth once Jack becomes Joker. I really do.
Well, sure. They're all, I mean, they're faithful incarnations of the Joker.
Sure.
Yeah.
But Jack sets the bar so high here. He is
Yeah,
a
that only
blast.
he could do.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this gave me huge Defoe as Osborn vibes.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like, you have the face.
Yep.
You're supposed to be
Yeah.
the Joker. Now, they almost blew it and gave us a younger version of Jack that was more terrifying than actual Jack. When we do the flashback of that dude's grin, it was like, whoa.
It's no good.
You were
It's
an
very,
easy
it's very
casting.
freaky.
Yeah,
Well,
it's very freaky.
I wonder if there's a world in which he doesn't have these goofy prosthetic smile lines
Mhm.
because those don't work for me.
Oh, I love them.
Unless he's laughing, then it looks really scary. But otherwise, it just looks like he's got like nuts stored in his cheeks for winter.
But that's his failed plastic surgery facial reconstruction.
Sure, yeah, which is fine. I mean, that's
Which, can we-
really like a not a plus or a minus for me. It's just like, oh, that's part of this. I could do without that or have it here.
See, I like it. It's an active plus for me because to me it makes him way more unsettling when he's not laughing because it's like, you look bad.
I think going into this viewing, I definitely remembered the camp, and it was just iconic because they got Jack, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excuse me. But the first scene where we have him, speaking of the plastic surgeon, where we never see his face and it unwraps and he starts laughing.
Ooh, it's so good.
That's great.
I forgot, like, he's
so
actually
good.
super unsettling.
Yeah.
His laughing throughout is top notch. And if you were to like take apart certain pieces of everyone's representation of the Joker, Jack might have the laugh. A lot of people impersonate Heath's, and we'll get to that eventually. But it's like he did such a good job with that. And this movie, we talked about earlier how it's still a lot of people, like Michael Keaton's not fully Michael Keaton just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tim Burton is definitely not Tim Burton just yet.
Yeah.
But Jack Nicholson is
Firmly
he's
Jack. Yeah.
Yes.
And so it was like to make, and they kind of were unfair in how they ended up getting him to actually do this. Some of the trivia that's most well known and people talk about all the time in the Batman series is that almost Robin Williams as Joker.
Yeah.
Who I thought would probably have done a good job
of
too.
course.
But everyone, you look at Jack and he was really built for it. But did y'all read about like what that process was with Robin Williams?
No.
So Jack initially was out, and then they said, well, if it's not you, Robin's going to come do this. And they had actually been in semi-negotiations with Robin to come in or Robin Williams to come in and do the Joker. And then Jack was like, oh, well, then I'm back in. And so then kind of Williams gets ousted, says, I'm never going to do a Warner Brothers movie until y'all apologize. Because ultimately that was pretty unfair. Because if, as big as Jack is in 1989, Robin Williams is way up there too and would later just own the 90s and have some kind of revenge there. But yeah, to get Jack, and he made Jack Nicholson as the Joker to this day is the most money anyone has made for a role in a movie all time.
Really?
Because contractually, Jack said, how about, because they, the budget, it's a $35 million movie.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's like, I will take some of the like profit, like however much money this makes. And I think it wasn't just in movies. I think it was in
Like
merch and stuff.
Yeah.
So for a movie that cost $35 million, Jack Nicholson ended up making $60 million.
Whoa.
Almost double what this movie cost to make. So obviously, and one of the things I love about Jack Nicholson is he's pretty arrogant as a person.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he has this interesting
Jack
recognition
Nicholson.
of knowing who he is, right?
Yeah.
Yes. It's like Nick Cage in real life is trying to do a Jack Nicholson impersonation in terms of his fame. Right. It's like he's almost arrogant, but it's just like, dude, but you're not quite there. You're an anomaly. But like Jack used to watch this movie weekly after it came out. He loved because he loved his performance so much.
I love that. I
would love even like one little drop of that sort of ego because I can't even listen to an episode of this podcast ever.
Yeah, it's weird.
Even while I'm editing it, I'm just like, God, I'm an idiot. I hate that I said that.
I had fun reading some reviews from like when this came out. It's always fun to like, because Ebert and Roper have been around for a long time. But like 1989, anyone who wasn't reviewing it super highly or just couldn't give it a 10 was like, well, even it was a good movie, even if the lead was outshined by the villain. Right. And that's so funny because if we look at it now, I've always viewed Batman as initially, in terms of character narrative, just kind of being a canvas for his villain.
Sure.
Like Batman is never the biggest thing about a Batman movie.
Right.
It's always the villain.
Right.
Yeah.
And even after, like Jack was one of the only ones to this day who's able to do it by himself because then we just start pairing everybody up. The movie we start talking about next week, it's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it's at least 2 kind of all the way. Because even with, we get Ghoul with Scarecrow, even with the Christian Bale movies. And so I think that's what makes Batman one of my favorites. And also Spider-Man is the villains are there.
Yeah.
And the villains make the thing. And so it was kind of funny to read that people were like, that was a downfall? Was that the villain performance was better than the hero? So are we still expecting in superhero comics for it to be mainly about the superhero. I don't know.
I think in superhero movies, and partially because this is the template for almost all superhero movies since, I think that the villain serves as a manifestation of the conflict of the movie.
Sure.
In a way that probably other genres don't necessarily, like maybe a James Bond movie would have a villain be like, they're the manifestation of the conflict. So I think by necessity, the villain defines the movie because the hero is the static force that must adapt to this new. Yeah, I think it has to be the villain defining it.
I'm almost certain that I've talked about this, but there's a DC produced documentary called Necessary Evil that goes through all of the villains and heroes of the DC universe and says, like, essentially the thesis statement of the documentary is heroes are only able to exist if there are villains because there is nothing like villains act first. Heroes always react because there's nothing to hero against unless somebody first does a bad thing. And
I think the Nolan movies talk about the escalation inherent in that too.
Right.
Avengers Age of Ultron does too.
Yep. So
Vision
you need a villain to hit a 10 for your hero to pursue a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jack does that in spades.
Oh, absolutely.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just a bad story if it's a bad villain.
Yeah.
In the sense of like just not portrayed well.
Absolutely.
It's just not good.
No, that's a great point.
Love it. Yeah, I think we talked about this too when we were talking our villain Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Minutes ago.
Yep.
Of the importance of that.
Whose super pump was that? Jordan, was that yours?
That was
or Carter,
me.
Was that yours?
That was me.
My
Carter,
pump was
your
the
pump
set.
was Gotham, huh?
Gotham City,
Yeah.
the set early.
Can we talk about Danny Elfman now?
Sure.
Is that okay? Can
Yes,
we change gears that
holy
much?
Yeah.
Danny Elfman's Batman score is my super pump.
Iconic.
The fact
Do
that
you like it more than the Spider-Man score?
I do.
I do too.
Okay, good.
The fact that this
You're such a Spider boy. I
Yeah.
thought you were going to stay true.
the fact that this score almost didn't happen is the most shocking thing about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The original
know that.
plan was for it to use a lot of licensed music. Prince was going to write songs for the villains. Michael Jackson was going to write ballads for the heroes. Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson was too busy on his Bad world tour, so he bowed out.
Amazing.
So then it was just going to be only Prince. Tim Burton basically pulled Elfman in and was like, "This is the guy I want to rework the themes from Prince's scores into the orchestration for this movie." That was the plan for the producers. Sorry, the producers said, "You're going to bring this guy in, he's going to do that." Burton said, "Absolutely not. My movies," he's quoted as saying, "My movies aren't commercial like Top Gun, so they're not going to be a jukebox, basically." And so they were like,
taking shots.
"Yeah, how about Elfman, you write this complete weird gothic score
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
for us."
Iconic.
And Elfman knocks it out of the park.
Do
It is
you
unbelievably good.
Oh, it's I think for my money one of the best superhero scores.
I want to take a second to cross pump. There's a podcast called The Soundtrack Show produced by iHeartRadio. They have an entire episode about the Batman soundtrack. And that sounds like a lot of talk about the Batman soundtrack until you realize that they have most of their, like the Jurassic Park discussion is 3 full 1 hour episodes.
Wow.
But
Love that.
they have an hour episode about the Batman soundtrack. And they explain it a lot better than I can. And if you're into like music theory analysis and the way that themes are repeated and changed to mean different things throughout the course of a movie score, highly recommend that podcast. It's very, very interesting.
Do you have a favorite part of the main Batman theme?
It's the four note,
I do.
the 4-note motif at the very beginning.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yep.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, because those 4 notes are the Batman theme, and then we resolve it down for Gotham. We can resolve that up. We can play it major. We can play it minor. Almost all of the melodies in this are some riff, some rearrangement of that 4-note theme. It's absolutely brilliant. It's the most like economical, like, you know what I mean? Like
What
just,
a perfect wrapping for the package.
Mhm. Oh my goodness, it's incredible.
Reinvention cinematically of Batman.
and it has transcended this movie completely
Yes.
to be like when Sam Raimi hires Danny Elfman, he's like, can you kind of just do Batman again for Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah.
It's really
And
similar.
Even that tune that we just shared, like I feel like it will never be replaced. That's a Batman, I think, for a long time until we just literally die out. This generation that got to see that and have influence on that is like, that's going to be what you think of. I think with sound,
Even the
when you
end
think
of
Batman as a theme.
the Batman trailer, it feels like it's kind of yoinking that.
And that's okay.
So,
I don't think anybody has a
100%.
problem with it, right?
100%.
Yeah. People would prefer
My
that.
favorite part of the main Batman theme is the little series of triplets, the ascending triplets that come. Yep.
Yeah.
It is every time that happens,
it.
I get chills.
Yes. How quickly are you video game boys going to jump back into the Batman?
Arkham?
Did you not just want to play Arkham so much?
We actually
after
just
this?
played through a couple of them recently. Callie and I did.
I would
And so,
love to do that.
I was freshly Arkhamed out, but all I wanted to do was jump back in.
I just can't believe that's the magic of this movie and this vision is because when you look at that incredibly successful video, is that one of the most successful video game franchises of all time?
It's up
Is the
there.
Arkham
It's up
series?
there.
One
I
of the
don't know if
successful
it's
licensed franchises.
Yeah, even the designs of that, like just the way that world looks and feels, I feel like started here.
Oh,
right?
it
Absolutely.
owes
I feel like it's
everything
just-
to this. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because its true primary influence is the animated series, and
Which in turn was influenced by
bingo,
this.
correct.
Yeah.
That's like the big bang magic of this movie. It just came out of nowhere, and it all worked together. It's just unbelievable. I came out of this viewing experience higher than I thought
Same.
I'd be. And it's just looking at the history of everything.
Yeah.
Because this is first.
I'm higher, like, conceptually on it than I thought it would be. This is one of those movies where, like, talking about it and thinking about it is almost more enjoyable than the watch for me.
I hear that.
Because I would say this movie doesn't necessarily hold up.
Visually, no, it does not.
Like, as I'm watching this, I'm often wishing it was a different Batman movie. Like, I'm often wishing, like, man, this is good, and I respect this, and I love the things that it spawned, but this is not my favorite iteration of this, and I'm honestly kind of bored and want it to be over.
Yeah. Tim Burton was bored of this movie too, by the way.
Really?
He's only just now come around to liking it.
Really?
So I haven't
Yeah.
super dumped yet, and I'll speak a little into that boredom, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Act 3 specifically, the tower.
Very long.
Can we? I thought you were going to talk about Batman just flying his plane for like 40 minutes. Just across the screen
So
like
that's-
7 times.
That's definitely part of it, but I want to zero in specifically on Batman's journey from the bottom of the clock tower to the top, or the what is it? It's not a
Church.
steeple. I
It's
guess
a
it is
church.
kind of a steeple.
The church.
It is, yeah.
But from the bottom of that tower to the top of that tower could have been cut into a fifth. A full 20% of that time could have been used. And I would have still been like, we probably could have skipped some of this.
It's like they wanted it to be like the climax of Blade Runner that came out like 7 years prior, where it takes Harrison Ford a year to get to the top of that building or whatever to hear him talk about Tears in the Rain.
Yeah.
And it just,
I felt like they wanted it to feel like a video game where it was like, oh, you got a mini boss before you get to the real boss. I hated that portion. I was giddy like a schoolboy for the rest of my watch until we got to that part. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want this movie to be done now.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, some of that pace is easier to get through because it's just everything around what's going on is gorgeous.
yeah.
And it's changing every time that we change frames. But, you know, even like Vicky's apartment, which by the way, girl, are you not running the newspaper?
Right.
Like, that's very nice. But, you know, Gotham rent was low.
I
early,
guess.
in the late 80s. But yeah, just having the same tower over and over again in the stairs and more things are falling. It's like, we know it's a long way down. Like, you've showed that with the shoe. You show that with the body. You show that with the bell.
get it.
And yeah, it just runs and runs. And, you know, I had forgotten that they stay pretty. Would you say that Batman killed the Joker in this movie?
No.
There's kills of omission and kills of commission, right? Batman's got kind of a tricky history with like, I don't have to kill you, but I'm not gonna save you.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
I would say that he actively tried to grab and pull up the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
So it
didn't think the gargoyle would break off.
If anything, it's manslaughter.
Yeah.
Which, if you break it down, also is man's laughter. Maybe that was the Joker's plan all along.
And what else is there if not the laughter of
What is Of a man.
Of
a man.
I don't want to hear a lady laugh today. Boys only on this one. Oh, hey, it's time to rate 1989's Tim Burton's, Michael Keaton's, Jack Nicholson's The Batman, but minus the. It's time to rate this movie. We're going to do that with science this time. Science.
The same science that Jack was good at 15.
Mm-hmm.
The chemist.
Mm-hmm. And
how could he not get a job? Why did he end up being a gangster?
The economy.
I am tired
Yeah,
of
that's true.
movies telling us that somebody's a psychopath because they got a clinical diagnosis. Just let me figure out that they're
throwing that out
crazy.
there.
He's crazy and the doctor says so.
Right. Yeah. It's just like, okay, well, they did not do a very good job getting a grip on that situation then in that case.
Like he goes to the doctor and he's like, you're crazy, but I don't know, have a good day or whatever. See you later.
Go on, get. You're crazy and you're racking up assault charges at 15, but you get out of here, scamp.
Go finish junior year.
You're going to get a driver's license. Does anybody drive in Gotham? Or is it all taxis like New York?
No, they drive.
We're going to rate
old
this with
classic
science, scientific cinema scale to be exact, and it goes a little something like this. The best thing we could ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it.
Buy that poster.
The next best thing is buy it. It's followed by rent it, and then stream it. After that is forget it. And last, but certainly least, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie.
God hath forsaken us.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy Batman 1989. My experience alone would not get me there, but it is respect, soundtrack, and influence that easily scoots this into the buy category. So this movie is a firm buy for me.
My turn. Imagine that you have a best friend.
Done.
You love this best friend.
Easy.
Your best friend's dad is an amateur painter and has an art show.
I would not be friends with that person anymore. Are you kidding me?
Their dad's paintings are not awesome. But I would still buy a ticket to that dad's art show because perhaps the greatest art that dad ever made was my friend. I'm going to buy Batman, not because its art is really my exact flavor.
But because what you're actually buying is Batman the Animated Series.
But because what I'm actually buying is Batman the Animated Series and the influence on Batman for the next, 30 years.
Sure.
Yeah, I buy it too. And I was thinking of when we reviewed A New Hope. And A New Hope, I think I bought the poster for.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was built on like, speaking of coming out of nowhere.
For real.
Like, oh my God.
That's
how
the
did
ultimate coming out of nowhere.
Right? And so, but there was still enough in there that made me want to watch it again and again and again and again. And I think to a lesser extent, like we said, the influence that this movie has on the icon and the consistently portrayed Batman in movies and TV is unquestioned.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a buy for me too. And it's not a buy of the poster. And a lot of it is me also kind of looking ahead at some of the other iterations that we'll get in terms of like enjoying them as a movie, as a singular episode. So, but yeah, so good.
Well, that about does it for us. Make sure you join us next week as we review Batman Returns.
Two Chunks returns as well.
Two Chunks will return in next week's episode about Batman Returns.
Two Chunks will return in Batman Returns.
Make sure you review us on Spotify or rate us on Spotify rather. We threw that out in shout announcements too, but I know some of you skip that.
Some of you skip.
So I'm gonna throw.
There's
it in
a good energy to like. There is an energy. It's not always good to doing the first review of a long series. This one specifically, though, I'm looking down months from now when we're still doing this, and like I'm very eager.
Yeah, I want to be there.
This is gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, I'm excited. To end today's episode, I'd like for each of us to say our name, which is a good reminder to our audience that we are real people. Please don't hurt my feelings with a low review on Spotify.
And we are three different people.
And we're three different
no matter
people.
how similar we sound.
I want us each to say our name and what we would have named Joker if we got the chance. Not the villain, the Jack Napier human.
Like what's his real boy name?
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
If we were making this movie, what would we have made his name? I'm for 2 chunks and a hunk. I'm Jordan, and Woos Brain.
But like Brane.
He's the opposite.
It's a thinker.
He's the opposite of Batman and Bruce in every way. Woos Brain.
But also, if you think about it, he's crazy. So his brain is a little woos.
He's got a
It's a little bit woos.
Got a couple squoos woos. Into brain.
Hey, that sucks that's actually very good that it works on 2 levels.
And I thought of all of that before I said the joke too, which is good.
You didn't.
That's crazy.
I like these at the end because I almost never have an answer in mind when I say it. So I accidentally put all of us in a bad situation.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I'm Doge, and it was a little unclear to me whenever he was playing with playing cards that he was going to be the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish it had been more on the nose.
Sure.
So in my version of the script, his name is Smilo Falldown. And that's because he smiles a lot and he falls down a lot.
Isn't that the main character in the animated Atlantis?
Yeah, Smilo Falldown from Atlantis. Same character confirmed. This is a live action prequel to Atlantis. But he smiles a lot and he falls down a lot and plays with playing cards. So that way, when he smiles at Batman and when he falls down into the acid and when he plays with playing cards, we know if you watch closely, it's actually the same character as before.
Amazing.
It's not. You don't have to lie. Did I take yours? Is that why you're thinking so long?
He was like, dang, I was going to do Smilo Fall Down.
I was going to say Smilo Falldown.
I'm Carter, and his full name, he's always called by his full name. It's Larry Osmond Lemons. And but then he happens to show his card at one point, and it's simply just his initials.
LOL.
Lol.
Lots of love.
Lots of love.